What is up, YouTube? This is Kyan Cannon from Arguably Georgia Sports here in our new studio. And today we're going to be bringing a video to you. We're going to be ranking every single ACC and SEC head football coach. Now,
this is really exciting because this is our first time doing a video, right? And we've been wanting to do this for a really long time, and it's great to finally be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. And so how is this going to work? I did all 28. He just did the top 10. So we're going to go through the bottom 18 pretty quickly, and then we're going to go way more in depth with the top 10. So should we get started? Get ready to do it?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So my number 28, the worst coach on my list.
Who is it?
Chuck Morris, Arkansas. This was a terrible hire, I think. He went to SMU. His records were 2-10, 5-7, and 7-5 at SMU. That was, I think, the worst hire. We might do a video on biggest coaching moves and stuff.
But he's a brand new coach. You have no idea what he's gonna do. He was just at Penn State.
No, that was Joe Moorhead.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I
don't think he's gonna be good. He's not gonna be there long. Arkansas is gonna be
probably stay the same level.
They're gonna be a doormat program for the next 10 years. So that's my prediction.
Really? You think he'll stay there for 10 years?
No, I'm just saying they've already been kind of messed up from Bielema.
Oh yeah.
He's gonna make
so
it
you're
worse.
Counting what Bielema had?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next up, I have Dino Babers out of Syracuse. Not a lot to talk about there. He went 4-8, 2 years ago.
Oh come on!
He's not a good coach.
I don't think he's the worst.
That's why I put him ahead of Chad Morris.
I'd say he's better than Paul Johnson.
Ooh, you went 4-8, 2 years in a row. You think he's better?
No, but it's only his first 2 years.
He still went 4-8. Paul Johnson went to the Orange Bowl his first year and won the ACC his second year.
I know, but you can't expect somebody to go right off the bat second year.
Yeah, you can. Second year, you should be 4-8. That's terrible.
But look at this.
It's terrible back-to-back years. Okay, we don't have enough time to go in depth with all these little ones. Next is a coach I liked actually a lot before the season started, and he really disappointed this year, is Derek Mason at Vanderbilt. I liked him a lot. It was just, this year was awful for Vandy. I thought they were going to make a little step up, maybe go like 7-5, maybe even 8-4, make a bigger bowl game. And going into this year before Georgia, the East looked kind of weak, and I thought maybe they could even contend. That didn't happen at all. They were terrible, 4-8.
I'm just going to go one thing a little bit before. I want to mention that Missouri had probably one of the most incredible seasons.
Oh, yeah.
In all of the FBS.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were, 1-5 and won their last 7 games?
Yeah.
I mean, they lost to Texas, but...
Yeah. They could be a...
That was crazy. They could be a real...
They could be a long shot contender.
They could be a good team.
Georgia's losing all those starters. Who knows?
Yeah.
At 25, not much to talk about here. Steve Adazio, Boston College. He had a pretty good year this year. I think he's great on defense. Offensively, he's terrible. We'll just go through that. Another guy that I thought was a pretty good coach before this year. Well, not really. He's very mediocre. Probably less than that is Pat Narduzzi at Pitt. He did beat Miami at the end of the year.
We way overhyped Pitt this year.
Yeah, we did. And like last year.
And NC State.
Last year we picked them to go 2-10.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yep.
No, and NC State too.
Yeah,
thought they'd be in
they started
contention.
Well. And next is actually NC State's head coach, Dave Doran. I did not like him. I don't know how he's not been fired yet. They've said he's on the hot seat for like the last 3 years. He had a decent year this year, but he fell off.
He had a great year.
He didn't win any big games though.
But he
Louisville was the biggest game he won.
He had like 3 losses. He had only like 3 losses.
I don't think he's a good coach though. I just don't. Okay.
He's actually in my top 10.
And oh wow. Number 22, Jim Moorhead. I don't think he's a terrible coach. I think he'll be out in a couple years in Mississippi State.
I'm really interested in seeing how all of these new hires come out. I didn't put any brand new coaches on this list because I just don't know.
We should make a video on. We should grade some of the coaching hires that went down this year. Next is Willie Taggart at Florida State.
Really?
Really, yes. He was good, not great at USF, and then he went to Oregon and had 1 mediocre year.
Well, he only was there for 1 year.
Exactly.
You can't expect somebody to just go be contending for championships on the
I
first
was
year.
expecting him to contend for championships, but I was expecting.
He had a winning record,
I thought he was going
and that's more than a lot of starting first-year coaches can say.
I wouldn't say that. He was at a good program. He had the pieces. I didn't say he was going to make a championship run, but I expected 9 games. I don't know. They
9 wins in the first season.
They lost some pathetic games.
Kirby Smart didn't.
They
win
ended
9
the year
wins
pretty well
in the first season.
They ended the year pretty
And
well.
he's in the championship this year. Although I will say I'm not a huge fan of coaches leaving after 1 year.
I don't think Willie Taggart's a very good coach. Ed Ogeron. Now this one is a big disagreement.
He's also in my top 10.
Wow, yeah. He's not a good coach. He went like 3-22 at Ole Miss. It was awful there in the SEC.
But he's at LSU now.
Yeah, he's at LSU, and he underachieved. And he still can't recruit a quarterback. Les Miles couldn't do it.
He didn't
can't do it now.
underachieve because he just had a bad start of the year, and it's only his first year.
Look, next year LSU is going to be really bad by their standards. I'm expecting like a 6-6 year.
I
This is why.
completely disagree.
This is why.
I think they could be in the championship
This is why.
conversation,
This is
and I think they could possibly win the SEC.
Okay, this is why. LSU for so long has relied on the running game, right, with Fournette and Darius Geis. Geis just declared for the draft. Etling's gone. He was serviceable. Let's just say that. And they got nobody now at quarterback. They got nobody at running back. That's how they would win games, and they still couldn't win. They still couldn't contend for titles with Les Miles. They with just a running back and a good defense. Now they're gonna be like Florida, at the Jim McElwain's first year. That's what I think.
Difference is they can play defense,
Florida,
and who's to say that they don't get another running back? Who's to say that they don't get a good enough quarterback?
Because they haven't recruited one at all. They don't get anyone.
I disagree. Anyway, here's your next team.
Next one is somebody that we shouldn't disagree much on. Dave Clawson at Wake Forest. He's number 17. So we're getting into the start of the better coach. Dave Clawson. He's got what Wake Forest needs, which is go 6-6, 7-5 every year. That's great for a program like Wake, And he's able to do that, so I think he's done a decent job. But he's by no means an elite head coach.
I just want to mention one thing about Ed Orgeron.
Mm-hmm.
I am very surprised that they didn't have a season that turned out like Florida State's, right?
Mm-hmm.
You lose to Troy, lose 2 of your first 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
You're at that point, you don't even care anymore, usually.
Mm-hmm.
But they got back, and they had, did they have 8 or 9 wins? 8?
Yeah,
9?
something like that.
I think it was 9.
Signature win was Auburn, really.
That was their main win. And I think that really turned the season around. That gave them some momentum. They started caring about the games, and they finished out with a pretty solid season.
Mm-hmm. Next I have a guy who, before this year, I think I could have considered in my top 10, and that's Larry Fedora, North Carolina. He's a good coach. This year was a huge disappointment. They talked about how they had so many injuries, and they did, but you shouldn't go from being, in 2 years, winning your division in the ACC to being a terrible program. So the next up, I have Jeremy Pruitt right in the middle, just because I do not know what to expect from him.
I agree. I don't know what's going to happen. Apparently, he has really bad relationships with the players.
Yeah, that's my thing.
That's what I was worried about.
I think he's a good defensive coach, but I don't think he's a player coach.
And I'm really disappointed that
But
you haven't
the opposite of Butch Jones.
You haven't said Paul Johnson yet.
He's not too high, don't worry. Now we're getting into the better half of the 28.
Barry Odom, I agree with you. I think
Missouri.
he's one of the better coaches. What number
I
is
think
that?
I think Missouri's on the rise. He's at 14.
I think they are too.
So this is the better half now starting. And next up I have Will Muschamp. I didn't want to put him too high, because I'm not totally impressed by him, because I still think he has lots to prove after that disappointment at Florida. But if he can get a good offensive coordinator, he can be a really good head coach, and South Carolina can be really good.
I agree. I think he could be really great, and South Carolina is actually, this is going ahead a little bit, but they're my. I have my top 10 in my honorable mention. That's South Carolina. I think they're going to be number 2 in the East next year.
Okay, that's fair. I can see that happening. David Cutcliffe is my next guy. He's a guy who he's at Duke, and Duke is never going to be a program.
I
that's
wouldn't
going to
put
win
him
a lot.
so high.
They're never going to be a program that's going to win a lot of games, right? He's won the ACC Coastal once and should have won it again. He would have won it if that crazy Miami lateral thing didn't happen with all the terrible calls. That he's been there for so long.
8 laterals.
He's consistently been okay at Duke. I think he deserves, and I think he's a great coach. He's very experienced. I think if he was a bigger program like Tennessee, who tried to hire him,
Why wouldn't he leave Duke?
I don't know. Loves the program.
I personally think Tennessee should have tried to get Matt Campbell, the Iowa State head coach. I think Iowa State could possibly have like 8 or 9 win season next year. Impressive for Iowa State.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Next up, I have Bronco Mendenhall at Virginia. He's done already a really good job of rebuilding the program from their previous coach, who really messed it up. They went 7-5 this year, made a bowl game, got some pretty big wins, and I look for them to keep trending upwards and maybe compete in the ACC in 2-3 years.
All right.
And now this is my top 10.
Okay. Number 10.
Number 10, I have Bobby Petrino at Louisville. I think he's a good coach. A terrible
Louisville
person.
would be nothing without Lamar Jackson.
I'm not sure about that.
Absolutely
They have
nothing.
been something, though. That's the thing.
But they won't be.
I think he's a decent coach. He was okay at Arkansas. He's a really bad person, but we're not going to get into that.
All right, I got Justin Fuente.
Justin Fuente, who I haven't mentioned yet. Yeah, that's a good coach.
He's been trending upwards the last couple of years.
Mhm.
He could be he has been for the last couple of years in the title consideration for the ACC. Third best team in the ACC this year. I think they could have a pretty good year next year.
Next up for me at number 9 is Gus Malzahn. It's like he's not.
I can't decide whether I really like the guy or whether I just think that his
Sometimes-
coordinators are really good.
Sometimes he looks great. Sometimes, like he had a 3-9 season not that long ago with Auburn. That was really bad. And who's your number 9?
I got Dave Doran.
Dave Doran, who I had way down.
Yeah, you had him one of your worst coaches. I think what he did with NC State this year was pretty great because for the last couple of years they haven't been anything, and this year
Exactly.
I really
With
predicted
him.
them having like a 5-7, 6-6 season,
Which they won 7-5.
and
Right.
they had better than that. I think they were like 9-3 or 8-4.
8-4. But I mean, that's the reason they haven't been anything is because he's been their coach.
Yeah.
And they just fired Ted Roof, who is a former Tech defensive coordinator who's cancer. He's gonna mess up the whole program. Next up, I have 7 and 8 are a bit of a tie. I have Paul Johnson and Justin Fuente.
Paul Johnson in your top 10?
Yeah.
That is the most ridiculous thing I've heard you say.
He's won the ACC. He's been to 3 Orange
But
Bowls.
he hasn't in the last
One, two.
several years. He hasn't been anything.
That's not true.
He's been
He doesn't-
losing record this year, 3-9 the year before, and he had a
He's won
kind
the
of
coast.
decent
He's
season.
won the coast
But
4
not.
times.
He hasn't done anything recently.
And then you gotta look into his past. He was
I
great in
don't
Navy.
give a crap about his past.
Well, I
now
do.
is
That's-
what we care
That's
about.
why Ogeron is so far down on my list. And then Justin Fuente.
I've
You can
got
flip those 7 or 8 either way you want.
that's ridiculous. I got Gus Malzahn
Mhm.
at number 8 and Ed Orgeron at number 7. I think what Ed Orgeron did last year, being able to keep up the momentum from Les Miles being fired halfway through the season, was pretty good. You don't usually see interim head coaches do that in Florida. But really, I'm impressed with what he's been able to do, and I think they're going to do a great season next year.
And then since I did both 7 and 8, you go do one more.
I got Dan Mullen.
Dan Mullen.
Dan Mullen at number 6.
Okay,
I think he's going to do a great job at
6.
Florida. I think he's going to get a quarterback, which is really what they've been needing. And I think he's going to build a great team there, and in a couple years they'll be in the SEC championship.
Number 6 for me is Mark Richt. You might think this is a little bit low, but he hasn't been able to break through, really. He's never really has. I think he's a great coach. He's not an elite coach.
Yeah. The 1 year that he was really close to making a title was the SEC championship in 2012.
And the thing is, they would have won the title. Notre Dame is...
They would have.
Yeah.
They would have won the title. They were five yards away from winning the title. Or bobbled.
Yeah.
One catch away.
So
my number 5 is Kirby Smart. I think he's on the rise, and next year he'll be higher on my list. but he's only second year, so I think he still has a lot more to do. I think if he gets 10 or 11 wins next year, he'll definitely be inside my top 3. But for right now, I'm just keeping him looking on the outside.
My number 5 is Dan Mullen. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at how consistent he was.
He turned Mississippi State into a team.
Yeah, and he was very consistent. He was never consistently like dominant, but he was consistently very good.
I mean, he got number 1.
Florida,
wasn't he number 1 for like the longest time in 2014?
Yeah, and he was like and at Florida, he has better resources, better facilities, a better fan base, better stadium. He is everything. I could see him in the next. Oh yeah, these top 5. In the next 5 years, I predict they'll all be in the playoffs somewhere.
Okay.
At least once.
My number 4 is going to be Mark Richt. He had a great 15 years at Georgia, starting to build Miami into a program. I think next year they're going to be a little more consistent. I hope they get a better quarterback, and I hope the turnover chain keeps helping them out.
Yeah, my number 4 is Jimbo Fisher. And I think he would be my 3rd guy if he didn't move to Texas A&M, because I don't know how that's going to work out for him.
I think he's going to be great.
I think he's going to be good, too.
I mean, the state of Texas is one of the best states to recruit in.
Well, you have so much competition.
I know, but there are so many players. You got private helicopter for recruiting, $250 million in facilities. I mean, Texas A&M has been wanting to win for the longest time, and I think now they have the coach to do it. They were willing to pay some money, and I think they'll win.
Yeah. Who do you get? And then you?
I've got Jimbo Fisher at number 3.
Okay. And then at number 4, I have Kirby Smart.
No, you just said 4. 4 was...
number 3. Number 3, I have Kirby Smart. He turned around that program so fast, and he's right on the doorstep to winning a title. Well, he was right there.
He just about won a title with a freshman quarterback.
It was very close.
Which nobody does that these days.
But I don't think he's as good. And I think we have the last... I think we both have the
I think we both have the top 2, which is Nick Saban 1, Dabo Swinney 2.
Yep.
Nick Saban has established himself as the best coach to ever live. He's still coaching, and I think he could win 1 or 2 more.
That's
titles.
another debate because Bear Bryant has the same amount of titles.
Yeah, I know, but Nick
he's
Saban's still in it.
He's considering leaving for the NFL.
That would be a huge mistake. Oh, did you hear about John Gruden got hired at a $100 million contract?
Yep. If you look at his record, he wasn't that great of a head coach. He won a Super Bowl, but
and then he just won a Super Bowl.
He won 1 too.
Okay.
But for years he was mediocre.
So and then Dabo Swinney, I think he's. I know it's crazy to say this, but I think he's on the rise.
And a lot of people don't.
I don't think he's peaked yet.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know this. Before this, Clemson was not a very good program. They had Bobby Bowden from Florida State before that. He was not very good there. And then Dabo Swinney came, and he's turned them into, I think, the new Alabama.
I disagree. Clemson is too inconsistent. The first couple years that they won, they had Deshaun Watson.
Playoffs 3 years in a row.
Yeah, but you lost to Syracuse. Alabama would never lose to Syracuse, and I know that.
Getting upset. It's a freak accident. You made the playoff 3 years in a row. That's pretty consistent to me.
Yeah, but then you get demolished by Alabama in the playoff game, right?
This was a really good Alabama team.
You're pretty much. I know the score doesn't say it, but you got demolished by Syracuse. I mean, they were throwing deep passes left and right. Your defense just laid down flat. Couldn't do anything to stop them.
And so, I think that concludes our countdown.
But I just want to mention, Kirby Smart and Nick Saban are in the same class of coach. So I think Kirby Smart's going to become the new Nick Saban. Georgia's going to become the new Alabama. Because he's exactly the same. Except he's a little bit more in tune with the players. He's more of a human being. And Nick Saban's...
Back to the Clemson thing this year, though.
I don't know.
Kelly Bryant was pretty good this year, right?
He was. But I feel like he could be better.
He's got 3 more years left. He's going to improve a lot. He was a freshman.
Yeah.
He's going to improve a ton. He's going to be great, I think.
And I'm really interested to see who's Alabama quarterback, because you got Tua Tagovailoa, and you got Jalen Hurts, and probably another recruit. But I really think Tua should be the quarterback. Because if Nick Saban had not pulled Jalen Hurts, then it wouldn't have even been a game. They would have gotten demolished in the second half. It wouldn't have even been close, all right?
Wonder if Jalen Hurts will consider transferring.
I don't know. And, okay, one more thing.
This is
Who
really
quarterbacks you think should transfer?
Jacob Eason.
He's one. And the two places I think he should go is
Washington or I
I was gonna say Washington, Florida, or Miami.
I think he would actually be great at Washington State in the air raid offense, and it's where he's from. I think that we could watch.
Yeah, but I think Miami would make a lot of sense too. Mark Richt recruited him.
I don't think he's gonna go to Miami.
I mean, come on, they need a better quarterback that he would easily beat out Rozier, and they could have a lot of success with him. Actually, start to have an offense.
But yeah, and I gotta give a shout out real quick. If there are any nurses watching this or listening to this or watching this podcast, I gotta shout out my friend Mr. Steve Yang. He's a nurse recruiter in Boston, and he's a big college football fan too. And yeah, just gotta say that real quick. And so one more thing to return to this, Lamar Jackson declaring for the draft. What do you think of that?
I'm really interested to see what he does.
I think will be a good move. It's like somebody like the Steelers who are going to have a really high pick.
I think
him. And Ben Roethlisberger's old, you know. He's not going to be
the
long.
Patriots should take him.
I think
because I think this is Brady's last year.
I mean, you look at some of these top teams. You got Drew Brees, you got Tom Brady, you got Ben Roethlisberger. All those guys are really old.
Yeah,
they're all going to have high picks.
But I think out of the three, Drew Brees is going to keep going the longest.
Yeah, well, he's the youngest slightly.
Yeah.
He's still pretty old. He's been in the NFL a while. So yeah, I think one of those teams will draft Lamar Jackson. He'll be their quarterback.
Yeah, I think he should definitely, because honestly, out of the three, Drew Brees, in my opinion, he's the best and he's the youngest. So I think the Patriots should take him. I think this is going to be Brady's last year, whether he wins or not. And then one quick thing, who do you think should be? All right, if you're the Browns, who do you take?
I think Josh Rosen's the best quarterback in the draft.
All right.
And see, the Browns, they don't really have to take a quarterback with the number 1 pick because they also have the number 4 pick. So,
and then that'll make their choice a little easier. I would take probably Baker Mayfield.
No, Baker Mayfield's too undersized. I don't think he's going to be great in the NFL.
To me, he's a Russell Wilson guy. He can run, he's athletic,
he's
short.
not nearly as mobile as Russell Wilson.
He can be.
No, there's not really. No, he's not. He's not even close to Russell Wilson when it comes to that.
And
he's a slightly.
And then my second one would be Josh Allen.
Okay, so this is what Baker Mayfield's personality and skill is a lot like Johnny Manziel, except he can throw the ball better and he can run, and he's not as good as running the ball.
See, I completely disagree. He's not going to be a Johnny Manziel guy.
I'm not saying he's going to be a bust. I'm just saying he's a bit of a hothead.
Well, yeah, but you kind of want that. He's a great leader, motivates his team. Anybody will want to play. Any receiver is going to want to play for that guy.
Well, they're going to get a lot of catches. So yeah, I think that's going to conclude.
Yeah, I think that's going to conclude it.
Might come out with another one today.
Yeah, comment on how you think the video could improve. Keep in mind this is our first one.
And
as always, but not really as always, goodbye.
You can just cut this part out.
Yeah, actually, we could just go ahead and roll the next one and then cut it in between.
Here, no, just cut it real quick. So.